All right, well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for this edition of This Is My Brave High School Edition, DC area cast interviews. So today I am joined by Payton Arnett, who is a part of our DC cast. And Payton, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. We are doing virtual interviews, of course, because we've been sidelined. Our normal routine of getting together on stage for This Is My Brave here in 2020 has shifted. We are not able to get together on stage as we normally would for our shows. So we've had to regroup and make a virtual plan to bring these stories to the community this fall. So as a part of that, we thought we'd take a few minutes to interview each of our cast members. And as I mentioned today, we have with us Payton Arnett. Payton, tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, where you're from, what grade you're in high school.
Well, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Payton Arnett. I am 15 going on 16. I am from Purcellville, Virginia, and I go to Woodgrove High School. I am now a sophomore in high school, which is honestly good. Just good for me because being a freshman was a lot, but like freshman year is just stressful as is in my opinion. So I'm definitely glad to have made it through the year. And doing This Is My Brave was something that I kind of was like, wow, I didn't think anybody would ever ask me to do anything like this. And I'm definitely glad I took the opportunity.
Great. So you came to this cast a little differently than some of our other cast members. A lot of the other kids are in Fairfax County, and they participate in a club called Our Minds Matter, which is a mental health club that is available at many of the high schools in Fairfax County. But you're in Loudoun County. And so tell us how you heard about This Is My Brave, and like, where did that come from?
Well, so my mom had told me, Peyton, so there's this opportunity for you to do another speaking engagement because I had spoken at Black Lives Matter protests, and it was a message that was sent through our NAACP, which I'm the youth representative of. And so the message had gotten to us, and I was kind of like, well, I'll take any opportunity because whenever someone presents me with something, I'm usually very open and willing. There's no reason for me to say like, oh no, I don't want to do it without even knowing what it was. So I went ahead and I said I'd definitely love to get to know a little bit more and understand what I'm going into. And then we had our first Zoom call, and my mom and I were kind of like, we talked after and we were kind of like, yeah, this is definitely something I could do because there's so many different areas. Just mental health is a very big thing in my household, and having the opportunity to sort of express it and express whatever I need to express or wanted to express was just something that I feel like if I had said no to, I would definitely regret it later on. So I kind of just jumped on the opportunity, and I'm very glad I did.
I like it. That is very brave of you to just with a little bit of information, just go for it. Like, we'll figure out the pieces later. That's so brave. So tell me a little about your mental health journey. Like, what have you don't have to give the whole picture, but I know that there have been a couple of things anyway, challenges that you faced. So can you give us a snapshot of each of those?
Well, so some of the biggest challenges in my life over the last few years of time. I can't give an exact date, but it was a couple years back that my father was diagnosed with full-on kidney failure, where both of his kidneys had stopped working. And I was only about 9 or 10 at the time. So going from having my dad work all the time and just someone who like was there and able to do basically anything with me to being sick and going to dialysis and having doctor's appointments and surgeries all the time was a big adjustment. And then my mom had to take on the big load because it ended up being her working. So it was a big adjustment. And for me, mental health wise, I kind of was like, I need to be strong because I had two younger sisters who were only 4 and 5 or 3 and 4 at the time. So my mental state was more of, I need to step up, be a good big sister, and kind of show them that, like, hey, we're going to get through this. Everything's going to be fine. And then after that, I like our family's just gone through it was a very rough patch of like a lot of in-house arguments and things just because we were all very stressed and we were all like trying to navigate this new lifestyle that we had become adjusted to. And then my family, we moved all around a lot. So it was kind of an adjustment, like going to a new school every other year and kind of just having to introduce myself over and over again. And then when we got around to 2019, one of the biggest changes I've ever faced was in January, my grandfather, like who is my best friend, he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer and had cancerous tumors in his lungs. And if I'm not wrong, it was a few different types of like cancerous tumors all throughout his body. And so I had no clue what to do with myself at this point because I was like, it feels like the world is just kind of trying to beat me down here. I already have this fact where my dad almost died and I almost lost my father, and then we started to get better, and now my grandfather's sick. Now, the story didn't end up with the happy ending everyone would have hoped for. He passed away 3 months later to the date of his diagnosis. And so I just had to, that was my real like breaking point because I didn't know what to do. He was there for me through it all. So I became this very upset, angry person, but I was like, I need to stay strong and just handle it for everyone, handle like all those feelings because my mom lost her father. My tiny little sisters just lost their grandfather that they knew, but they were only like 8 and 9, so they were really young. And my dad, he was trying to be there for all of us, but there's not much you can do in that situation. But after, like, as I've gotten older, even though it's only been a year, I kind of understand I can't force myself to not feel, or else I'm never gonna really get through this grief. And just kind of, I had to establish a point of like release and understand it's okay to be upset, it's okay to be sad, it's okay to hurt, but don't let that overtake you and don't let that be that controlling point. And that's just a few of the things that are really like some big points in my life that definitely shaped me. And like my mental health state has been a lot of anxiety and just trying to be brave for other people rather than taking time to struggle and then get better.
That okay, I applaud your desire to, I mean, to step up and be the big sister and be a good, strong daughter to support others. But that's a huge burden. So I'm so glad that you are recognizing now that giving yourself a little bit of attention. So tell me what you do. What have you been doing to care for yourself now that you realize that that's a necessary part for your own healing?
Well, personally, I kind of like, when 2020 came around, I set this goal for myself, which was I have to, if I want to be there for other people, I have to truly take time to regroup and fill myself up. And like, you can't pour from an empty cup is something a lot of people have said to me. So I decided that it was going to be a year where I took a break. And now, did I think I was going to have this much of a break? Certainly not. I definitely didn't think I would have a whole quarantine to kind of take a moment and step back. But I sort of like, I talked to my friends and I just kind of said like, hey guys, I need to take a break for myself, like not really talking to people, just because for me personally, when I talk to other people, I kind of always want to know like, hey, is something wrong? You seem a little bit off. And I kind of just put myself in the back of my head, like, if something's wrong with them, I want to be there. I want to help them. I want to make sure that they can feel better. And so I just had to take time where I was like, I can't talk to anyone or else I'm not going to actually get better. I'm just going to make myself think, oh, you've gotten so much better because you can hear about these other people being upset and you're not even worrying about yourself. I'm definitely better. And I take my breaks. I listen to music a lot. I read a lot, which I know sounds kind of, a lot of people say that's kind of nerdy, but like that's kind of my like release. And then if quarantine weren't here, I would have had my first high school softball season. But like I honestly, like, softball is such a big part of my life that like just watching softball kind of relaxes me. So I when quarantine hit and it was right at the start of the softball season, I was kind of just like, let me go back and watch all these softball games and just kind of take time to be by myself and just hang with my sisters and my family and just enjoy a break, enjoy being there in the moment rather than focusing on, oh, was something wrong with this person or this person? How can I help them?
So it sounds like quarantine for you has been, well, I'm sure it's challenging the way that it has been for everyone, but almost a welcome opportunity to do the work that you knew needed to be done.
I think that's what I could say about quarantine because obviously not seeing my friends and just kind of not being at school was a very weird adjustment and something I wasn't prepared for. But one thing I'm working on as well as taking like time for myself is not automatically thinking the worst outcome of things and thinking, oh, this is going to be the absolute worst experience. So when quarantine started, I obviously wasn't the happiest camper here in my house, but I tried to find the positive, which was I went from being someone who was always busy out doing things for other people or just taking the opportunities I could to being there with my family who they cheer me on at everything I do, but I'm as busy as possible for a 15-year-old. So I really did I just said this is the time where I can watch and just enjoy relaxing with my parents and with my sisters and develop those relationships that I have, but they weren't as strong as they could have been because we all didn't lead separate lives, but we had very busy lives that were very time consuming that just didn't allow us to spend time together all the time.
So you've had all this bonus family time. Just
Definitely.
very quickly, how's your dad doing?
My dad, he is definitely much, much better. He,
Right.
he, even when he got sick, I will say that he has done any and everything he can for his children. He is my biggest softball supporter because he was an athlete in high school. He will do any and everything for us. Like if there's something we want or that we need, he goes out of his way to make sure that it happens. And with my mom working so much to sort of support and maintain financial things, he took on the role of kind of taking us everywhere, being there for us, and just it wasn't like I didn't have a relationship with my dad before because he worked for a moving company, so he was very busy. But I feel like our relationship has definitely molded and changed because even though we butt heads, because he and I are probably the two most similar people in our house,
It's interesting that you recognize that. Good.
he definitely is
Always similar people that struggle a little bit together. Yeah.
but that similarity and that just that common ground I think has really developed us and allowed us to just kind of mold into this relationship of trust and like even though sometimes he'll tell me the truth when I don't want to hear it, I know I hear and understand what he's saying, and it definitely comes in handy to have my dad around because he's very willing and honest about what needs to be known, and he kind of doesn't shelter me from things. He puts things in perspective and kind of teaches me what I need to know early on. And that definitely helps when it comes to being put in different situations that I've been put into.
Wow. That's so great. I'm really glad you have such an amazing perspective. And so, all right. So now looking forward to the fall, um, you're going to record a piece and it's going to be a part of our show that we're going to put out on October 18th. That's when it will stream live on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. What do you hope other teenagers learn or get from your piece?
Well, my piece, I feel like there's a lot of things I'd love for people to understand. But one thing I feel like I really truly want a lot of teenagers who have if you have a tight knit group of friends, one thing I really, really want you to know is that if you have a friend who is kind of that go to, you can go to it for advice, you can go to an event, you can go to if something's really, really wrong. One thing I want people to know is kind of make sure that you take the time to ask them and kind of get them to tell you hey, is something wrong? Because you were always there for us. So we never it's not that it's a rude thing because that's just that's how a person's personality, a person like me, your personality is you want to be there for other people. And if nobody ever asks you, you don't feel the need to tell them. But if somebody asks you, I feel like that's something that really needs to be known. Check on your friends and kind of make sure that they're okay if they always make sure you are. Because that's something that, like, I feel like a lot of people like me, your intentions are make sure other people are okay first. And if nobody asks you, then you're not going to say anything because why would you? You're there. You want to be there for everyone else.
Yeah.
And then I feel like the only other thing I would say about my piece is kind of take the time to learn more about yourself and understand who you are and who you want to be in the end. Because I I'm very focused on my schoolwork and I'm very focused on my friend group and developing good relationships with people. But if I hadn't taken the time I've taken to kind of get to know myself and know who I am, my opinions on things, and like how I act towards people, why I act the way I act, I definitely wouldn't be able to say that I'm doing better than I was a year ago. Because taking that time for yourself and understanding who you are is going to help you if you want to be there for people. Knowing who you are and knowing what you want is definitely going to help you do that, or else you're kind of trying to just receive everyone's opinions rather than understand your own, so that way if someone says something you don't like, you don't just take that. You have to defend yourself and defend your opinion in a respectful way.
Yeah. So to get fully grounded, you've got to know who you are. And otherwise, you'll just be drifting from one thing to the other, right?
Definitely.
Wow. You've been through some tough things that I know there's some sadness there, but I see in you so much strength because you've done the work to examine, what this is, what it means to you, what you can learn from these experiences. And so while struggles and grief are hard, I I think you're taking what you can from these experiences and you are becoming a really amazing person as a result of the work that you've done from facing these grief or these grieving moments. You're facing your grief, I should say. So I applaud you for that. And I can't wait to hear your story. I know that it will be an inspiration for not just one person. You're going to touch many people with your story. So I hope that everybody tunes in with us on the 18th of October to hear Payton's story along with the story of many other kids. We hope that you find hope in these stories. So Payton, thank you for being with me today and talking with me more about yourself and how things have been going. And we look forward to seeing you at our show on the 18th.
Thank you.
All right. Well, have a good day.
You as well.